Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. It's been a week now. We'll make another video tomorrow as well. So we'll at 2 this week. Today is the 17th. Is it the 17th, Eric?
Today is October 17th. That is correct.
Wow, time is flying by. We are less than 20 days away from Election Day, so it is time to do our updated 2020 presidential election prediction. And as you can see, we have our logo back here on YPMS. Thank you for adding our logo there. But with that being said, let's get right into it. We're going to just quickly start off by putting in all our safe states. You got the obvious West Coast here, as well as several East Coast states.
Almost
all of it. New York is not going red this year. Illinois, Hawaii, and we are actually going to move New Mexico. We were honestly debating about it because New Mexico does have a lot of Hispanics, and if you've been following our videos, Trump is doing better with Hispanics than he did in 2016. So we're putting it as safe cautiously, but it is borderline likely safe, but regardless, it's going to Biden.
That is correct.
Is that it for the safe states?
I think so.
All right. Heading to the Donald Trump now. I actually probably should have titled them, but Democrats Biden and Republicans Trump. We have Illinois, Utah. Again, we were putting this one as likely at one point, but we're going to move this one back to safe.
By Illinois, he meant Idaho.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. No, I meant Utah. Sorry, I meant Utah.
Oh. All right, yeah. So safe Republican states are, for the most part, in the middle of the country and most of the South. But we'll talk about the South later because we will see that Donald Trump is slipping just a little bit, and we'll talk about that.
Indeed. I think that is it for the safe states. Is that it? Oh, Kansas. All right, yeah, we were going to put Kansas as likely as well. We're going to move it back to safe because I think it probably will be above 15 points, but it is less safe red than a lot of the other states on here. And I think that is it for the safe states. We're going to now head to our likely Democratic states, starting first with Colorado. Used to be a swing state, has moved significantly to the left now. That's going likely, and we also think that the Senate race here will also probably be likely as well. Virginia will also be a likely state. Used to also be a swing state, in 2008, 2012. No longer a swing state anymore. Now it is pretty solid for the Democrats. And Nevada is quite an interesting one. We were also debating about moving this one to lean, but we have decided to keep it as likely. From the polling data and looking at the demographics, we have decided that it probably will go slightly above 5 points, probably around 6 points, but definitely not safe Biden. Because if you look at the polls in 2016, they actually overestimated Trump here. And right now they're showing Biden up by quite a bit. What was the number again, Eric?
I believe Biden was up by 6 or something. Yeah.
6, right. And we don't solely rely on polling data for our projections, but it is a huge part of it. And from what we know from that, we do think Nevada will be slightly above 5 points because we do have to address demographics here, which is that Biden's not doing as well with Hispanics as he did in 2016. And a huge part of Nevada are is that Hispanic electorate. It will be slightly above 5% from what we see right now. All right. Let's head now to New Hampshire. Eric, if you want to take New Hampshire away?
Yeah, sure. So New Hampshire is probably one of the more conservative states in the Northeast. Usually in previous years, for example, take 2016, Hillary Clinton did abysmally in New Hampshire. It was pretty close there. And the polls do show, I don't know if Lucas wants to pull them up, New Hampshire's average is 11 for Biden, but we're going to talk about who's polling. You see, SurveyMonkey, you may have known them. They're an app, and then they, I believe you get paid for filling out certain surveys. And 538 somehow approved them of polling. And they've released a lot of polls, a bunch of polls that are swinging the state average, and usually it's swinging the state average towards Biden, and we really do not we don't think they're very good pollsters, and we're not sure how much we can rely on them. New Hampshire is more of a conservative state. They have a lot of rural areas that really show their support for Trump. So if we look at something like Suffolk University, Biden plus 10, that's pretty good. But New Hampshire is definitely not going in a safe, and it's probably somewhere between a likely and a lean.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that. I think the rural parts do play a pretty big role. Well, not a big role, but there is that role there with New Hampshire, and we are going to put this one as likely, but again, cautiously likely, probably borderline between this likely and lean characterization here. All right, I believe that is it for the likely Democratic states. There actually are a couple more. We'll get back to that later. We'll do the likely Republican states first. Montana first. We think it's going to be below 15%, but Trump will absolutely win this one. South Carolina, the Senate race here is actually shaping up to be a lot closer than we at first expected. We're actually putting this as lead on the Senate level, but on the presidential level, we're going to put this one as likely. We do forecast there may be increased African American turnout, possibly from the Senate election, as well as with the current events happening. Black Lives Matter could be a huge role in driving up African American turnout here, which will benefit the Democrats because African Americans do tend to vote for the Democrats as well as other people of color. And another state we're putting as likely is Mississippi. Also a pretty large African American elector. We could see higher turnout here from them. Missouri, we're going to put as likely as well because polling has been quite interesting here, and we do think we need to downgrade it from a safe to a likely state. And I do think that is it for the. I missed a few. Alaska, we're putting this one as likely. The reason for that is because Alaska is less Republican than a lot of these other states here. And again, from the polling data, it's showing quite a close race. We actually saw an A-plus pollster. I forgot which one it was, but we saw the pollster put it as 6 points. Yeah, Sienna Upshot, New York Times. So we do think that it'll be less than 15 points. And we do have to address the undecided numbers here because it's 45-39. So that is a pretty decent undecided number. And undecideds do tend to split for the Republican candidate in Alaska. So we're going to take that into account and put the state as a likely. All right.
Yep.
Also, Nebraska first. Nebraska first is like Alaska. It's a lot less Republican than a lot of the other states here. We're going to move this one also to likely if you saw from our past video as well. I realized I missed another likely Democratic state. Maine All-State, we're going to put this one as likely with the reason being that the second district could contribute a little bit to the numbers here in taking into account, because if you know about Maine, they like Nebraska, they split their electoral votes based on congressional districts and one for the all-state. And the second district is a lot more Republican than the first district is, and we could see that play a role in impacting the all-state electorate. If you remember, Hillary Clinton did abysmally here, getting, I believe, is it 3 points higher than? Oh no, it was actually around one. Was it around 1 point? I'm not remembering. It was somewhere between 1 and 3 points. She did terrible here in Maine all-state, and that is part of why we're going to put this one as likely. But the main reason why is because of the second district here, which we'll actually discuss later.
Yes, but once again, it is important to remember, we actually made a video on this. You can go check it out. Why 2020's election is it's definitely not the same and essentially uncomparable to 2016. Because there was a lot of unexpected things that happened, and Joe Biden is just a lot more of a different candidate. And as we know, some people have seen Donald Trump as a president, and that's definitely going to change up some of the results.
Absolutely. All right, Eric, let's start with the likely Democratic states, the ones that we kind of want to discuss a bit more.
Okay.
Yep. Eric.
Yes.
Why don't you start with Minnesota?
Sure. So, yep, as we know, Minnesota is one of the four states in the blue wall, which is essentially the foundation to win the election. Minnesota is we are going to put it as a likely Democratic state. If you remember back in the summer, and basically the high point of the Democratic Party, Minnesota was in digits. And we also reported how Minnesota at one point also kind of went into a pretty steep decline. We called it actually like a staircase decline because that's exactly what it looks like. Yeah, as you see right there. And right now, Minnesota has pretty much evened out to, and yeah, they had a bit of a plateau there. They have multiple plateaus, but it basically has evened out to a 9-point increase for Biden. And those results have been pretty consistent. But once again, SurveyMonkey is kind of swinging the average. These pollsters, such as Survey USA and Suffolk, they make more sense as to what the actual result is going to be. Donald Trump is doing his best to campaign in not only Minnesota, but he's campaigning in Wisconsin today, as we will talk about later when we talk about Wisconsin. And we'll see how, even with him campaigning, Biden has a very, very significant stronghold, not only in Minnesota, but in the remaining 3 states in the blue wall.
And that's one thing that's incredibly different from 2016. Biden is campaigning a lot in the blue wall, a lot different from what Hillary did. She didn't go to Wisconsin that much. In fact, I believe the number was she went to Wisconsin once after the Democratic National Convention, which is not a good idea. She thought she locked it down, but she did not win the state because she clearly didn't lock the state down. Speaking of Wisconsin, we can kind of dig into Wisconsin right now. If you were watching our video since the beginning, you would remember that we had Wisconsin as like toss up or even tilt R at sometimes.
It was
And it
very
was for
contested.
good reason. Because if you look at the polling back then, if you saw it, look at how close that is. Doesn't that look like Florida right now? Or not Florida, but like Ohio
It's
or
like Iowa and Ohio, which we'll get to later.
yeah. So this was incredibly close with Trump even taking the lead at times, but that has since clearly changed since first of all COVID-19, then also Black Lives Matter, which did help Biden in the state of Wisconsin, considering its proximity to the state of Minnesota to drive out turnout. And right now we're seeing Biden with a 50.9-point support. That's more than majority. If every single undecided voter went to Trump, Biden would still win the state. That's a 51% to 43%. So Wisconsin, we're feeling very confident about going to Joe Biden. Eric, do you have anything else to add about this?
Yeah, and Biden, once again, his campaigning strategy and schedule is definitely an improvement to Hillary Clinton's. To Hillary Clinton's, he was just in Nevada, he was in Florida, and once again, testing negative and bringing in negative results, which is something that the American people want to see. So he's campaigning in all the very important states and trying to lock them down. And if he makes full circle and campaigns back in the blue wall area, he is definitely going to secure them.
Yep. And I think I did make a mistake if I said that we were putting Wisconsin as likely. I did mean that we were going to put it as lean. It's currently a borderline between lean and likely. We got to wait for some more information, more data to come out so we can further analyze it to move it eventually to likely. But if what's happening right now continues to happen, we will move this one to likely pretty soon.
Yep.
Because the October surprises, which we'll discuss in a different video, have been quite interesting. We'll discuss the Hunter Biden case, but quite frankly, it does not seem very credible what they've been saying about the Hunter Biden case. But anyway, Michigan now. We're gonna put this one likely, actually. Eric, why don't you discuss this one?
In general, once again, along with most of the states in the blue wall, Biden is trying to reach out to these voters, and the polls really show that. Each one of all of these 4 states are polling around average from 7 to 9, maybe 6 to 9, and he's really locking it in. And once again, just like in Wisconsin, who has 50% or above the vote? Joe Biden. He has 50.6% of the vote. And that means that he has the majority, if not more than the majority. So he is in a very good place right now. And once again, 17 days until the election. Although that may not seem like much, anything can happen. But if these results remain consistent in Biden's favor, I don't see what can go wrong for him.
I think that Michigan's probably the most likely state to flip from red to blue in 20 from 2016 to 2020. I definitely think that Michigan will flip for Biden. All right, heading now to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is where Biden was actually born. He was born in the city of Scranton. Uh, he has been visiting Pennsylvania recently, I believe, to campaign here. I believe, did he do his town hall in Pennsylvania? I believe he did. Is
I think so.
that correct? Yeah. Okay, but he's up a very decent amount in Pennsylvania, 6.8%, so 7%, and with over 50% of the vote here. Hillary Clinton didn't have that. Yes, she was up in Pennsylvania, but she did not have 50% of the vote in Pennsylvania, or according to the polls, she did not. And additionally, Pennsylvania is interesting in that the big cities on the eastern part are very Democratic, while the central part is more rural, as well as part of the western part as well. So we think that Pennsylvania will go in a lean, considering it is more of a battleground state. We're going to put this one as lean for now, but again, as we get more information out, we do think that we might move it to likely in the future. And to further discuss Michigan really quickly, I realized I forgot a main point about this, is that Michigan has a pretty, pretty, I don't want, it's a pretty decent amount of an African American electorate, in that I think that compared to some of these other states here, Michigan does have a lot more African American vote. Well, not a lot more, but it does have more African American voters here, which, if we see higher turnout from them, would benefit Joe Biden as well in the state of Michigan. All right.
Yeah, and in general, I feel like this year, comparing to 2016, the message of going out to vote, whichever method is more convenient for the voter, is very, very prominent and prevalent and very popular comparing to 2016. We see lots of people saying go vote, and everyone is on social media saying go vote. So I think in general, turnout is going to shoot up this year. People are definitely more interested right now. Even people, as I've said before, people even not into politics are starting to, read into it a little and trying to figure out who to vote for. So in general, turnout is going to shoot up this election. It's going to be very interesting to see.
And that's a good point to bring up, because turnout, when there's increased turnout, it does tend to help the Democrats in many cases. 2018, they saw increased turnout, and the turnout numbers were nearly close to presidential election numbers. And obviously, 2018, in our opinions, it was a blue wave. Although the Democrats did lose some seats in the Senate, they got 41 seats in the House. So higher turnout definitely will help the Democrats. Alrighty, let's head now to our lean states. And it seems that we only have one lean state. Oh, actually, no, we got a couple. Never mind. Arizona is the first lean state here. Yes, Joe Biden is not doing as well with Hispanics as Hillary Clinton did in 2016, but you also got to remember, Joe Biden is doing extremely well with white voters this year that Hillary Clinton was not able to get in 2016. Arizona is interesting that it used to be a pretty strong conservative state. It has since moved significantly to the left now. In 2018, if you recall, I think they did flip one of the House seats red to blue. And we also saw Kirsten Sinema, the Democrat, overtake Martha McSally in the Senate election. We're expecting Mark Kelly to defeat Martha McSally in the Senate election this year. So in general, Arizona has moved to the left. And although Joe Biden isn't doing as well with Hispanics as Hillary Clinton did, we still think that he will win Arizona in a pretty good margin, in that it's between 1 to 5. I don't think it'll be over 5 points.
Yeah, we have to point out that Arizona, at one point, it was polling 5%. Now it's kind of lower to 3.8. And I think that's right about where it's going to be, maybe even less, depending on, 17 days. Who knows what could happen? But it, especially this election year, because it did go to Donald Trump in 2016. We can't expect it to like completely switch. So somewhere, yeah, between 1 to 5 is probably where Arizona is going to be, maybe right in the middle, so 3.
Right, and that is why we're putting the state as a lean. All right, let's head to our last lean state, I believe, actually. It is our last lean state. Texas. At one point, oops, not blue. At one point, Texas was a lot closer. And looking back at our old predictions, we probably should have moved Texas a lot sooner. Did we even move Texas to tilt? I think that we should have moved Texas to tilt absolutely, because Biden was up at some point.
Yeah, we even made a video about it.
Not Montana.
Once again, Texas, one of the most conservative states in the nation. Everyone knows, oh, Texas, a very conservative state. Biden was up there in the summer. Once again, we have to point out that was the high point of the Democratic Party. But now Donald Trump has rebounded, but only by 1 point. Once again, this is Texas, and we've seen remnants of this. Like in 2016, Iowa went in a bigger margin than Texas, so it already Texas's margins for the Republican did go down, and we only see Donald Trump up by 1 point. But even then, I do think that Texas still has a conservative base, so it's probably not going to go any less than a lean. I would be very surprised if Texas is more contested than that.
I agree with you on this, and it's something else worth noting that Texas overestimates the polls here. Tend to overestimate the Republican candidate. We saw this in 2016, where Texas went to Trump only by 9 points. I believe the polls predicted a 12 point margin. Someone correct me in the comments if that's incorrect. But and then in the Senate election between Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz in 2018, the polls pretty much indicated a Ted Cruz victory by, I mean, I don't want to say it was like a super safe margin, but it was indicating in a decent margin. Um, he won by just about 2 to 3 points, which was really surprising because nearly every single poll conducted in the Texas Senate election showed Ted Cruz winning, and it was more than just 2 3 points. So it is it is important to keep that in mind because we are seeing a lot of comments saying, "Oh, Hillary was up 10 points in Texas." I'm being sarcastic here, but um, Hillary was never up in any poll here in Texas. If I'm recalling correctly, the poll that showed the closest margin was one poll that showed Trump up by 4. Now we're seeing many polls that are indicating that it's either even or even Biden up at some of these pollsters. I'm cautious to add SurveyMonkey, but this is what SurveyMonkey shows in here.
Yeah, they definitely swing the average.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
moving on to our next state. Where should we go?
Up to you. We'll get
Yeah.
into our tilts now.
Yeah, I think at this point, we only have tilts left. Should we talk about Iowa and Ohio? I think they kind of go hand in hand because
That's a good idea, but I just remember we missed one of the leans. Nebraska second district. We are putting this one as lean. We've put it as lean since before because Nebraska second district is considered to be pretty democratic compared to Nebraska as a whole because Nebraska is a pretty solid red state. What we're seeing here in Nebraska is a lot of the demographics things. In Nebraska, there's a lot of white, highly educated voters, which means they have like a bachelor's degree, and the college educated voters do tend to go to the Democrats, and we're seeing that here in Nebraska, and the polling data that's come out of here supports that as well. I haven't seen one poll that showed Biden losing in the second district. Again, we don't solely rely on polling data, but that's clearly showing something. So we are going to put this one as lean. And now, Eric, you can take away Iowa and Ohio.
yeah, so these two states kind of go hand in hand. Let's take a look at the polling, which is very surprising. I think at this point, Iowa, we can start with Iowa. Biden is leading. Again, this is a very small lead, and it is essentially subject to change back to Donald Trump's direction. But the fact that Iowa is leaning towards Biden in the polls, that's very like that we haven't seen that before. I don't think Biden has been up in Iowa before, and even then, it's been very rarely that he does. You see, at one point, Donald Trump was up by 5, and of course, that's definitely the margins have definitely decreased. And right now, Iowa is very contested, and I think at this point, I think we should put Iowa as tilt because look how contested this race is. And, the Senate race in Iowa is also very contested. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And I think right now, Iowa is not that in that good of a place for Donald Trump. And it's a very, very contested state. That's all I can say. And I think we should put Iowa as tilt Republican.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you on that. I would put this one as more of a borderline tilt slash lean compared to some of these other states here. But we will be putting this one as tilt from now on. Alrighty. Eric, do you want to do Ohio as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, not Iowa, Ohio. Yeah. Yeah, so moving on to Ohio, I may have made a mistake and said that Ohio Biden was also leading in polls, but look at this. Donald Trump's only leading by 0.2, and just a few days back, Biden was leading. So once again, very back and forth, and we see this constant back and forth, and this shows how contested Ohio is in Iowa. And once again, they have pretty similar demographics, and they're following the same patterns. Both of them are very back and forth, and I think we should put Ohio as tilt because it's way too contested this year, and especially comparing to last year. Ohio and Iowa are in just two different ball games, and comparing to 4 years ago, it's going to be very close.
Yeah, I agree with you. Currently, according to polling, it is a statistical tie. Even though Trump's up by 0.2, it is really a tie at the moment. And same to say about Iowa as well. Even though Biden's up by 0.2 as well, it's also a statistical tie that we do think that Donald Trump has quite an advantage. It does have not quite a bit, but he does have a slight advantage here. All right, let's head now to Florida. Florida is it's been interesting, I'll say the least. We made a video of showing that Biden was slipping at one point, but that was right here, 1.5 up. But he has since expanded his lead, and I don't think it was just the what's it called? Oh gosh, Survey Monkey polls. But there were some other polls that came out that did show Biden up as well.
Yeah.
Trafalgar, again, we don't like cherry picking data, but Trafalgar is not really a good polling source. Very questionable. But Emerson showing Biden up by 2, Redfield up by 5.
Yeah, so far Biden is up in Florida by just a little bit. Definitely margins have tightened up since the summer. But right now, Joe Biden is polling 3 to 4 points in Florida, which is pretty good. And also, I was reading an interesting article that's showing how senior citizens in Florida are leaning towards Biden. And what's interesting about that is that in 2016, Donald Trump's vote heavily consisted of senior voters. And seeing now that some longtime Republicans are voting for Biden, especially in such a contested state like Florida, could be the difference in what happens here. So I don't think it's really safe to give it to Trump yet because I think Biden does have the slight edge. And Florida is definitely going to be a state, not just we're going to be looking at, but literally everyone, because Florida has a history of tipping the election. Just take 2000 Bush v. Gore. They couldn't count Florida because that's how close it was. And we're probably going to see some similar events happening in 2020.
Absolutely. And to discuss more about Florida, from election night, during election night on November 3rd this year, I have no doubt that Trump will be leading on election day. By the time election day is over, he's going to be leading. But as the vote in the mail-in ballots come in, we're going to slowly see the map shift bluer and bluer, eventually to the point where we see a Biden victory. That's what we call the red mirage. Now, why is Florida so important here? Because Florida does usually count their ballots quite quickly. I was talking with our good political YouTuber friends, such as God of Politics, about this. How if Trump doesn't win Florida, and let's say Florida is called on election day because it counts fast, and it shows Biden winning, that's a huge sign because Trump can't win without Florida. We've discussed this before. So Florida getting called on election day and seeing the results that day will play a huge role in this election and determining the winner of this election. But we are going to put this one as tilt because Biden is doing very well with the senior electorate. All right. Let's do Maine second district first. Maine second district has also been very interesting with regarding the polling data. It's a more rural district compared to the first district. It's a lot more sparsely populated, and the rural regions of the United States do tend to vote more with the Republican candidate. However, polling data has again been really interesting here. If we're seeing the new data that came out from Maine's second district, we're seeing Biden up in every single poll. I don't know if there was one poll. Okay, there was a couple. Critical Insights showed 9, 8. CD Pollster, again, not the best, but most of these polls have been showing Biden up by very small margins. Again, it is a statistical tie if it's this close.
Yeah.
CNN at A+. So we are going to put this one as a tilt for Joe Biden right now. Sorry, tilt for Trump right now. Yep.
Yeah, only because, Maine second district has a pretty conservative foundation. Donald Trump took this pretty soundly in 2016. We still think he's going to take it, but it's just going to be a lot more contested.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Eric, why don't you take on Georgia now?
Yeah, so Georgia has been seeing some very interesting results. We do think that right now it's contested enough to be at a tilt margin. I was reading another interesting article, and I think turnout in Georgia just today was like a 134% increase from 2016, just like early voting. And that comes back to what I was talking about earlier in the video today about, spreading the message to go vote. And that applies to Georgia. I think they were like 40 million voters or something. I may be wrong, but like a lot more comparing to 2016. And they're turning out in Georgia right now. And I think Biden's leading in Georgia right now. But I can't heavily rely on that because Georgia, along with Ohio and Iowa, they have been very back and forth. And right now, because of Georgia's pretty conservative foundation, we are going to keep we are going to give Trump this, but just in a very small margin as a tilt.
And if you recall in 2018, Stacey Abrams came extremely close to becoming the governor here, extremely close against Brian Kemp. And we are seeing a pretty competitive Georgia Senate election as well, possibly both special and Senate, or general election. But we'll talk about that in another video. But we do think that Georgia will be very slim, and a huge part of that is the African-American electorate here, which do tend to vote for the Democrats. And finally, the state of North Carolina. We went back and forth on this for a pretty long time. We think that the state is pretty much a pure toss-up, but if we had to choose it to put it to one side, it would be Joe Biden. And we have seen him rebound at the polls, it seems like, from before. Let's take a look at that right now. North Carolina polls, look at that increase. Initially, it was 1.1 in September. We were putting this one as like toss-up as well, but we have since moved it. The polling has since shown a huge increase for Biden, and a lot of them is skewed. A lot of the polls are skewed due to SurveyMonkey, and for that reason, we're not putting it as a tilt D. We're putting it as a toss-up right now. But some of these A+ pollsters, such as Siena College and Upshot, New York Times Upshot, is showing Biden up by 4. A pollsters are showing pretty decent leads for Biden, 3-4, 1-5. So for those reasons, we are going to put this one as a toss-up. If we had to put it to one side, it would be North Carolina. Wow, this video took a while, didn't it? But anyway, we have Joe Biden at 334 and Donald Trump at 204. If you remember, this is the numbers that we had like this summer. So I think Biden has definitely improved. He's doing a lot better than he was doing like 2 weeks ago.
But the thing you notice is that this map is a lot more colorful than it used to be during the summer, which just really shows you how margins, they do play a role. Margins are pretty important in elections.
Indeed. And I think part of this reason why he's been improving could be due to a potential debate bump that he received. We do think that Biden did win the debate, and the polling has shown Biden potentially getting a bump from that. I'm going a little bit off topic right now, but according to the national polling data, Biden's up by 10.7 right now. That's actually 11 points. So he went from being up about like 7 points up to now 11. That's huge. But anyway, that is discussion for another video. We'll be discussing some more stuff tomorrow. You'll find out. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you like our content, please hit subscribe. We'll see you in our next episode tomorrow.
See ya.